Welcome back, my friends, as we ask for the final time this season.
Can you force it?
And we're going to be looking at my favorite build, also known as the ZAC pack, because no one suggested a better name, so that's what we go with. But there's only about a month left in the season, so we'll be saying goodbye to it pretty soon. This build is made with 9 players, and it combines all of the Riftwalkers, all of the Mascots, and all of the supers. So it's a pretty specific build. I didn't feel like forcing it would work, but, well, you'll see with the results. So we'll go to the augments, and since this is a healing-centric build, you want to grab healing augments. So things like Second Wind, First Aid, Thrill of the Hunt, Celestial Blessing, anything that increases your healing capacity is worth it. And you're going to want to start by trying to get as many of the supers and mascots as you can find. Now, usually this build does not get off to a fast start, even though you'll often get a couple of 3-star champs. There's just no real solid synergy there, unless you have something like Second Wind, which is going to keep your champs up a little bit longer, which, along with an early mascot buff, which you can get from Malphite and Nasus, can keep your team in it early. Again, it's going to take really until the end that the entire team comes together, but you might just be able to squeak out some victories or end up with some losses. I also like mana-producing augments for this build, such as Axiom Arc, as you'll see in a moment. That it does really well because Vex is going to be a power center for this, and she can cast and do a lot of damage. So you want to try to get healing, mana, those types of augments. And it's game time decision as to which champion you're going to prioritize. In this case, I got a lot of AP items, so I prioritized Vex as my damage dealer. Jhin, equally as valid, or to set up a super tank up front. You can kind of choose which way you want to go, but it's going to be based on what items you're getting access to and how they fit together. For hero augments, you have lots of choices at pretty much every single level. Rule of 4 at the 4 cost level is my favorite because you're going to get a lot of gold, which gives you a lot of rolls and will enable you to get a lot of 3-star champions, which is going to help in numerous ways. At the 3 level, you're probably going to want to avoid the Vex augments. They're not that strong, and look towards the Alistar augments. The 2 cost, Pyke's Your Cut is pretty good, but Malphite also has an augment that allows you to heal every time you cast, which is very good for this build. Now, the ultimate enemy of this build is something like this, with an Aurelian Soul in the back that's difficult to get to. You do have some backline killers in Jhin and Vex and also Nunu, but if an opposing team has healing and an Aurelian Soul, it's going to be hard to break through and really do the damage that you need. So you get into the top 4, but you can be wiped out with anti-heal. That's what happens here, and we go out 4th place. Game 2 started with hero augments, which can be a little bit tricky because you need one that's either super or mascot. So you're going to have to roll and hope that you get what you're looking for. Obviously, nothing here is going to work. We're looking for a healing one. The Guardian Spirit is the one I was talking about. This will give you healing each time you cast. So you're going to be getting healing multiple ways now, from the mascots and from casting. This second game just started with loss after loss. Also, forgot to mention the first time, Ascension is an excellent augment for this because your team is going to usually last a long time. The fact that they can get more powerful afterwards is going to help a lot. Now again, this is somewhat item dependent. If I have the right items, I like to pick a champion who I think I'm going to 3-star pretty easily to be the super tank. It's usually Malphite or Alistar, as I find they both can be very, very strong and hold on for a long time due to their ults. And you can see here, Malphite just keeps taking damage, doesn't care, shrugs it off, and allows us to win. So your first priority overall is getting the supers together. Your second is getting the Riftwalkers. Once you get ZAC in, you just put ZAC close to Vex so that ZAC will become a mascot, and that will take care of some of the mascot issues. But if you have a choice where we can go into Riftwalkers or have the 4 mascots, I say get the extra player on the board, go for the Riftwalkers, allow that to become the mascots, but make sure to keep your supers. They are, even if you haven't 3-starred anyone, still giving you 18% additional damage and can help you stay alive. Final augment in game number 2 was actually really tricky. Big Friend can work because you're going to get a lot of high health champions in front, but I like Celestial Blessing just a little bit better as it adds additional levels of healing to the match. And again, based on item choices, you're going to decide which one of your backliners to itemize for damage. In this case, we went Vex again, and then just continue to tank up Malphite because we were only 2 away from the gold. This particular match ended up with lots of little problems. I was only able to get 1 additional 3-star, so not much bonus from the supers. Also, never found a Nunu, so I was not getting the full healing that you get from having 6 mascots. And so we end up going out in 3rd place. Still not bad. Game number 3 opens with True 2s as an option, and I decided to go for it because I could end up with a 2-star unit that I could actually use, or something I can ultimately sell that will help me fill in the build. It gave me the Pyke, so I'm pretty happy about that, and I can pick up Nasus to go along with my Alistar and Gangplank. Thanks to that True 2s, this game ended up with a fairly fast start because I was able to get a lot of 2-star champions early. I had also picked up the elements to make a mascot emblem, the spatula and the giant's belt, so if it got into trouble, I could make the additional mascot and then use that to get to 6, so I'm not as reliant on getting Nunu as I was in the last game, which definitely led to my demise a little earlier than I would have liked. The second augment in this game left some interesting possibilities. There was a mascot crown, which I could have taken, but I'd rather roll and then get golden ticket. This will allow me a better chance to pick up champs I'm missing because right now I have not gotten a Malphite or a Lee Sin until this point. Now what happens next in this match still leaves me a little bit baffled, and I've watched it back and I don't quite understand what happened. I get 4 cost augments. Nothing fits. Nothing fits. Nothing fits. Nothing fits. And nothing fits. I don't understand why I didn't get Jhin, since I have Pyke and Vex in the game, and that's what it's supposed to give you. I end up picking up Echo just because, but now I have no chance of putting together the entire build. I needed Jhin for that. Now, thanks to having the mascot emblem, I was able to get to 6 mascots, and golden ticket really gave me a chance. But as you can see, I was 1 gold short from getting the gold 3-star Jhin that I feel could have made a huge difference. I still don't totally understand why I didn't get a Jhin augment in that hero augment, and I end up going out in 4th place as a result. As we head into game number 4, it was begging me to go Super Hearts as I had a Sona right out of the NPC round. Then when I roll, I get Paid. Now Get Paid will work for either one. It's going to leave you with additional money, so you get additional gold. but the fact that I already had a Sona and a Lulu made it really hard to stick to my commitment, but I'm going to force my favorite build, and that's what I'm going to do. By the second augment, I'm running in the middle of the pack. I see Prismatic, and I'm hoping for that one, Golden Ticket, which will work really well along with Get Paid. I'm finally able to get a Lee Sin, and now I can start looking for everything else. And while I thought Golden Ticket was going to be the slam dunk for this, I was having trouble getting items that would work really well in the comp. I had nothing for real power in the backline. I take Ascension as the final augment because, again, these games do tend to last longer since you have a lot of healing, but the items are still a problem for me. I have good items on Malphite, who I thought I was going to be able to get to gold pretty early, so I turned him into the full tank, but have not been able to find that last one. I did get a gold 3-star Nasus, but he's on the bench for now so that I could bring in Jhin and set ZAC up. But just having that extra allowed me to start winning rounds. This game ended up running really tight. As you can see from the health charts, everyone's kind of clumped together and a lot of people can go out in this round. We're also not to 9 yet, so even though I found Nunu, we do not have the 6 mascots, so not full healing. But one thing I like about this build is even when you lose, and I'm gonna lose this fight, but you lose without taking quite as much damage so that other teams go out behind you and you can claw your way into 4th place in a big scrum like that. And that all has to do with how they calculate ties when the scores are even. It has to do with how many opposing champions are left on the board. So if there's only 1 or 2 out there when you go out, you have a better chance of being above somebody else. As you can see, for the final game, I decided to go with Three's Company in the hopes that I could get one of the 3 cost heroes that I really needed, and then use any extra money to just roll for my super champions that can make up the build. Thanks to that early luck with the good gold infusion, I ended up with 4 2-star champions heading into 4-2, having not lost a match. So I'm starting this one off fairly strong. I've already got 2 of my Riftwalkers all set, and all of my super champions are at least in place. The luck continues as I pull a 5-1 Jhin, and then 2 really good augments. Either Second Wind or Ascension will work fantastically for this build. Ultimately, I think Ascension's just a little bit stronger because it will allow you to power up more as the match goes on, where you're going to be getting healing anyway, so while Second Wind is good, it's not essential. Heading into the final augment, this game is feeling really strong. We're towards the top of the pack. I've got most of my champions together. I don't necessarily have a Nunu set or a Mascot augment, but we're in good shape. I'm almost afraid to roll this. I don't want Wrath of the Rift. I want Rule of 4, but after what happened before, I was afraid I wouldn't get it, but I did. Then got another Jhin, and we have the 2-star Jhin that will help us go forward. And I really thought I had this one completely locked down, but I ran into a 6-heart team that ended up with a lucky draw on some Thieves' Gloves. And you'll see that in a moment, where they ended up with double Zeke's Heralds on Sona, who was next to double Zeke's Herald on Nico, along with a Heart LeBlanc in the corner, who was just going to increase power rapidly thanks to the Heart trait. And so they were able to knock me back to 2nd place, but GG for everyone. Now, let's go to the scoreboard.
It's funny because in some ways this did better and worse than I thought it would. Game number 1 was 4th place. Game number 2, we crawled up to 3rd place. Then game number 3, back to 4th place. Game number 4, once again, we were in 4th place. Game number 5, I thought we were going to win, but that ended up in 2nd place. Now we take all of that, add it up, so it's 4 plus 3 plus 4 plus 4 plus 2. Divide all that by 5, and we come up with our force score of 3.4, which is not bad. I didn't expect it to be this consistent across 5 games, as I found when I wasn't necessarily forcing it that I'd either end up in 1st or in 8th, depending on how everything went. But when I actually just focused on it and went specifically for items and augments that were made for it, it did seem to come out that I was going to climb, albeit not fast. Hope you enjoyed this video. We'll be doing more forces in the next set once we find them. And as always, have an absolutely awesome day.